back into one's perception of the 60s cultural revolutions, it occurred to me that a lot of that had been specious. A lot of what was left intact, it's rather like the debates that are going on about feminism at the moment. A lot of the things that, you know, now you can call Gordon Gordon. You can call Gordon Brown Gordon to his face. But in fact, that's as meaningless as calling, you know, Stalin Comrade Stalin, actually. Doesn't mean you can go around to number 10 Downing Street, put your feet up on the sofa and ask Sarah to fix you a bowl of cereal. You know, and that kind of, very much an aspect of New Labour, that kind of, oh, an end to deference, you know, that's terrible window dressing. And I would track that back to the 60s and track that back to the failure of the cultural revolutions of the 60s to address real political and economic inequality.
Last question. What about failing powers? You've talked about, I think there's a sort of posterity syndrome, the idea that, you know, you've finished your writing and the danger is that you go on repeating yourself, that in a way that you've reached the end, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, I suppose that's a familiar thing to many writers, but you observe writers who go on and on doing it and doing it and doing it over and over again, and it just doesn't seem to work. I mean, your friend, one-time friend, probably still a friend, Martin Amis, I mean, seems to have reached this sort of point almost where he's unable to recapture that which was there in the beginning.
I'm extremely fond of Martin, who gets criticised a lot, but I always think has great, what my mother would have called built-in orphan power. I always feel enormously protective of Martin, even though we disagree politically really quite, though arguably it's the narcissism of small differences, but actually it isn't. I mean, on quite major political things, we're completely at variance. But I don't know whether I would characterise his work in that way. I mean, he's a very interesting figure, of course, because he's become a kind of cynosure for so much in people's perception.
Even if we allow, perhaps, that his work is better than some of the critical reviews that he's getting at the moment, do you have that sense, really, that, I mean, are you going to repeat yourself, that you can't get off it? How do you go? Where do you go next through?
I don't know. I like to avoid, you know, Nietzsche said, when I see a so-called great man, I see a man aping his own ideal, and I certainly don't want to get into that zone. I can't possibly know. You know, Evelyn Waugh said, you know, at best, you've only got 2 novels in you and you just rewrite them. That may well be the case. I'm not in a position to judge. I simply keep on doing what I do because, you know, my work, my written work is my praxis. It's my way of engaging with the world and thinking about the world. So I can't really stop. And if it's no good, then so be it. Posterity's a delusion anyway, Laurie. We all know that.